Arthur, Prince Albert Ronnie is asking, even the president himself is not well known. They have less than 5 months to change things. Else, we Ghanaians don't have any sympathy to vote for any of them. We shall vote wisely this year, not a single mistake. And Emmanuel Japan also writes that Mr. Arthur is an experienced economist who can help turn things around. But can he be a good running mate? That's the question we're analyzing. And well, this is news. The NDC with this is ready to go to opposition in 2012. That is what Clench Safo thinks. Ebenezer Amani thinks that whether we accept it or not, he is our vice. All what we need is to give our support to him. Oh Lord, let your will be done. Give the seat to the one who can heal the land. And Joseph Ahia Zebe says that Mr. Arthur is a wrong choice as he can't bring much votes. He's not popular at all. Erasmus Darko again says, though not popular, he is an astute personality with great credentials. The economic institution is the backbone for both developing the country. So Muhammad needed a highly inclined economist to assist him revive the economic status of the nation. I'll put it bluntly to you, gentlemen. Are we on the right track? In the last week since former President Mills passed away and the succession processes we went through to nominate President Mahama as his successor, and now he is nominating Mr. Arthur as a vice presidential nominee. Are we on the right track? Have we done incredibly well, you would say? Kwesi Pratt.
Well, I'm so far impressed. You know, one, because we are dealing with something which is clearly unprecedented, and you're also not dealing with a case of resignation. You're dealing with a case of death, which comes along with great emotion and so on. And I've been particularly impressed by the performance of our former president, Mr. J.A. Kufuor. I mean, this has given him the opportunity to demonstrate a certain kind of statesmanship which we haven't seen in our country for many, many years, you know. And I think that Mr. Kufuor is becoming the ex-president to salute, you know, on this matter. He's been excellent, I mean, and he's contributed significantly to bringing about a certain measure of stability and comfort in the political space, and has therefore also contributed to the situation in which there haven't been too many aberrations, you know, of the process and so on. And I salute former President J.A. Kufuor. He's been an excellent former head of state and a statesman.
Prof.
Yeah, I think I think I would agree. I'd have to agree with Kwesi Pratt on that. Certainly, we are in again precedent-setting moments, and I think that the way we've handled this since the death of our President Mills to this point, I think has been exemplary. Exemplary, not just in the African context, because there's a sense in which we tend to see these things only purely within the African context. But I think in the global context, our conduct of this transition has been exemplary. So there's, in addition to checking the box on the controversial term limits that are controversial in many other countries, we checked it very easily in 2000, checked it again in 2008. We're checking the box again on smooth, seamless presidential transition. So this is an important milestone, I think, in our attempt to deepen constitutionalism in Ghana. I think that some of the hiccups that we've had with, for example, some indecisiveness as to presidential burial grounds and the like and all of those kinds of issues come with the fact that this is unprecedented. And also, it also bespeaks a certain, and that's the area where I may have a minor criticism, is that somehow it has exposed some of the crisis management approaches that we have. That obviously these things should be planned ahead of time. We should have a sense whether we have a national cemetery for presidents and the like are things that, you know, death and these things happen as a matter of course.
And we should be ready
for them.
We
should plan ahead. But this is an opportunity for that to be done. I would have expected, and that is the last point, that again, this being a precedent-setting moment, and that matters to me because once you set a precedent in this way, it begins a tradition, and this may be the tradition we follow going forward. That in this particular instance, the planning committee, the planning of the funeral of our late president, I think these matters I would have preferred that they be done in a multi-party fashion, with all even preferably all three branches of government represented: legislative, executive, judicial, and all the parties. Because in future, whatever standards we set, wherever we decide to bury our president, will be precedents that will also carry on to other presidents in the future, other presidents from other political parties. We don't want those situations where people come later on and then undo precedents that are set because they didn't set it, right? They were not part of the planning of that kind of stuff. So the only one minor issue I would change with how this is being done is in the planning, that we include all the political parties and even possibly include the executive along with the legislature and the judicial, so that this becomes an affair of state, purely.
Mr. Pratt, I will ask you one final question. I keep coming to you again. How is all this going to pan out on election 2012?
Well, it's difficult to say. It's extremely difficult to say. There's a groundswell of sympathy, and that is normal. But I've said publicly that our political parties and so on should not be winning power simply on account of sympathy. There are too many problems, in our society. Problems with the economy, problems with the social order, and so on. And I think that the election ought to be based on the issues. But the sympathy is there, and you cannot ignore it, The other thing which is also very, very interesting is that all the political parties will have to change their game plan. I mean, John Mahama is, in a way, he has the same disposition as Professor Mills, but in a certain sense, he's also very, very different from Professor Mills, and that changes the equation, considerably. In the final analysis, the party or president who should win this election should be one who is able to extend access to health, access to education, who is able to provide improved quality housing and more houses for the people and so on, who would improve national infrastructure and so on. I think that these are the things. People don't wake up on December 7th and stand in the sun and in the rain to vote for any other reason other than improving their economic and social conditions. And that should be the guiding principle in the choices we make in this election.
Well, Awa Isaku Kanau is saying that, Steve, can you ask Mr. Pratt to tell viewers what makes the position of VIP so exceptional that we have to deviate from the usual norm of parliamentary approval by the vetting committee of Parliament?
I haven't said that we should
take another look at the Supreme Court decision he refers to again, because it appears he's contradicting himself, as the same decision talks about subject to parliamentary approval. Yes, we may agree that the case in point now is unprecedented in our nation's history. However, that should rather guide us to further enhance our democratic consolidation by ensuring that due diligence is done in this matter, Mr. Pratt. If there is nothing to hide, then the nominee should be vetted by Parliament's appointment committee. Mr. Pratt, it's fair for me
to... I'm very surprised that you as the host elected to read this, because it's based on misrepresentations and so on. I never said that Parliament should not vet. I'm saying that Parliament will have to decide whether to use the current processes or to enhance them, or to abort them. And that there's a Supreme Court decision which actually says that parliamentary voting is not synonymous with parliamentary approval, and these are facts. So if he chooses to distort what I said and so on, you were in the studio, and you know that this is a complete distortion of what I've said, I don't think that you should have read it.
Then maybe you miscommunicated. And therefore, that's why they understood.
Or maybe he misunderstood.
That's right.
So communicating properly.
That's why I read it. And then Richard Kofi Bompon is saying the same thing, that we have 5 months. Let's give this nominee a chance. And Roland writes, judgment says that, in fact, President Mahama and Mr. Emisa are both unpopular and can't help the NDC. Husseini Abubakar also says, first time I'm seeing Pratt on this show. Emisa or Baumia, the value can't be the same. Emisa, well, I can't read the rest. And then Kofi Muka says that Emisa also doesn't add any distinctiveness or uniqueness to the ticket. He's already part of the economic management team. Has he been able to rescue the CD? Baumia is much of a more refreshing and dynamic personality. And Kwesi, why did the NDC propose Mahama? This is a formality and it cannot change him. I don't understand what Ibrahim Aziz is trying to say. And thank you very much for engaging with us on PM Express. And I had with me in the studio Professor Kwesi Prempeh, constitutional analyst, and Kwesi Pratt Jr., editor of the Inside newspaper. I also had on the telephone line Dr. Kwesi Jonah, a political analyst, and Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, MP for Mesha constituency. Thanks for joining us. My name is Stephen Anti. Join us again for another interesting edition of PM Express. Good night.